everyone. This is Phil of the Comics Pals here at Philadelphia Wizrad World in 2017, and joining me is Hall of Famer Rob Liefeld. How are you doing?
I'm great. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. How's it feel to be a Hall of Famer, a legend, if you will?
You know, it's nice. 30 years into the business, it's nice to have your work be recognized. So it's a lot of fun.
What's the hall like? Is there anything weird about it that you could talk about?
I can't. I had to sign away all the details. I can't tell you.
So it's like a secret society kind of thing?
It is a secret society, absolutely. Special location, secret handshake.
The whole 9 yards.
And more.
One thing that you've described throughout your career is that a big part of your meteoric popularity is having your finger on the pulse and being attached to the cultural zeitgeist.
Okay.
How cognizant of that were you as you were proliferating your career in the 90s?
Well, it's interesting. When we broke in, my peer group, because I really feel like I was part of a new movement with Jim Lee and Todd and Eric Larson. And the thing about it was the guys who had been doing what they were doing, my favorites, since I was 10, they'd been doing it almost 20 years at that point. And there's some burnout, I think, in terms of they were kind of set in their ways. The reason we were able to make the noise we did was because everything had become very established and expected. 6-panel grids, just kind of the way the books were very, there was a house style. So we broke through, and I think I was from the MTV generation, which before they showed soap operas, and reality shows, they showed music videos. And again, from music videos, you got directors like Dave Fincher, Michael Bay, and they did these great little short films in 2.5 spurts, and I was all about the quick cuts and imagery, and I think we applied that to comics, and the generation that was with us was like, wow, this is what we want. And I think the generation above us, we rattled their cage a little and showed them, well, maybe you can break out of the grid. And really, so when you ask me about the finger on the pulse, I think we were just of a generation that was about to take over the business. And the other it's just like in music or sports. Sometimes, a guy's put in 20 years in his career, and then the new rookie class comes and shakes it up. And that's really what I feel it was more about than anything.
Yeah, it seems like at the time of those books being published, it was polarizing, but either way, you guys were very subversive in creating something really unique. Even in the creation of Deadpool, very subversive character. Right. Were you deliberately subversive in counterculture, you think?
Well, if you mean by polarizing, if you mean selling millions of copies, sure, that we were polarizing. We became the top of the field. Look, whether it was Deadpool or Cable, they absolutely, right out of the gate, hit a niche with people. Having an asshole mercenary rolled out at the right time at the right place. There was no honor about him. He was a jerk, speaks his mind, while Cable was, I think, the leader that the X universe needed at the time. You had either, again, I was very deliberate. Magneto was this kind of menacing presence, and he had his view of wipe everyone out, the humans out, and Xavier was work along with everybody, and Cable knocked down the door and said, you're wrong and you're wrong. And I, told Marvel, this is what I'm going to do with this approach. Having a man of action was the right place, right time. Maybe 10 years later it doesn't work, maybe 5 years earlier, but at that point in time, it was the right time to shake things up. And so again, you take your swings, and sometimes you hit it out of the park, and sometimes you don't.
Your work and volume of work is very popular and successful. How have your influences evolved since the mid-'80s to now?
Well, the guys who were my favorites back then are still my favorites now. Walt Simonson, Frank Miller. I'm telling you, those guys are, now I look back at their older work constantly, because I think there's still some great, applications. But at the same time, I was very much into manga, and I still am very much into manga. I'm always checking out new books, new titles, and now here's the deal, what's kept me young is I have teenagers who, 17, 15, and 13, and they keep the pulse. Now that I think maybe I'm slipping away, they're, hey Dad, have you heard of Attack on Titan? Actually I have, but my son introduced me to One Punch Man, and we sat down and watched an entire season in one day, and you're like, wow, this would have, I would have dug this under any other circumstance, but it had slipped under my radar because I'm older now. But my kids are keeping me young, and they're into, anime and some manga, and my son was into the Naruto cartoon, and I was able to say, come with me to the garage. Here's all the Naruto or Naruto, whatever. Here's all the manga. And he's like, you have this? I'm like, yeah. So, you know, it's a great back and forth now. So, look, manga to me still, I love the way they design their pages. They're very loud, and there's nothing static. And sometimes I think American comic books to this day are a little static, and we could learn something from the way the other guys do it.
So when you publish your books now, do books like One Punch Man have a big influence on what you work on now?
Actually, it just reinforces that I had the right thing going. I mean, One Punch Man seems like a 90s comic to me. You know, I mean, it really does. Big, veiny guys and lots of violence, and I mean, oh, I love it. I mean, it's fantastic. Same with Attack on Titan. I mean, they all have double swords. I mean, it's like Shatterstar. I mean, there's guys with giant, I mean, they've taken pouches to a new level, those giant holsters, right? Yeah. I mean, so I bought the action figures, and I'm like, this is like the 90s on steroids. So, I mean, obviously I'm, you know, attracted to that kind of stuff.
I heard an interview with Grant Morrison where he was praising your work. He described it as a avant-garde abstraction of reality, and he said that you were extremely important to this industry. Okay. How do you feel about that description?
Thank you, Grant. That's very nice. I've read a lot of times. He compares what we did to what grunge, the Seattle movement in the 90s, and I think that's we were very disruptive. Because again, true story, the editors would say, don't break these panel borders, and don't turn the book sideways. And I'd be like, well, that means do more sideways and do more break borders. And here's the deal, we would run those deadlines so tight that you can't send that page back to me. I won that showdown. We're going to press in a day. You are not going to have me redraw that page. And so it went out, and suddenly, more eyeballs, more sales. Todd and I had the same thing. I mean, Todd would do the same thing. Yeah, I'm going to do more this time. I'm going to do more. And it was like, you tell us no, we give you 6 more. So it worked out for us.
Are you guys so close-knit, all you founders
Very
of Image? So you keep in close contact and everything?
Yeah, look, and as we've gotten older, we appreciate the dynamic of the age that we kind of ushered in. And look, man, Image Comics is important. It's still the best damn deal in comics. You create Banana Man, you own Banana Man. Image takes a piece for publishing, but most everybody else is taking a piece of that pie. Image, 25 years strong in regards to creators' rights and creators' freedoms. So it's fantastic.
That's so important. Everything you guys did for the industry in terms of creator-owned comics, like, instrumental.
Well, I honestly, that's the one drum I can bang all day long. That's probably our greatest achievement. And we laugh. I mean, because so many people said it wasn't going to last. And I mean, you know, let's see, 7, 10, yeah, I've been 17 out of the 25 years I've been there. And the last 11 years, and I mean, there's not a better deal. There's not a better gig.
Is it ever surreal? I mean, we talked about finger on the pulse and being part of the cultural zeitgeist. Is it ever surreal seeing a character like Deadpool that you created being as extremely popular as he is?
Yes, it's look, it was 10 years ago I saw that he was really catching on with the cosplay crowd, and I would go to cons and there'd be 5, 6 Deadpools as opposed to now 30, 40, you know. But when you see your costume brought to life, whether it's here on the show or state-of-the-art film, it's exhilarating, and you see the character, you know, twirling around, shooting 3 guys in the head with 1 bullet, using katanas. You're like, that's my man, and then making fun of you. I mean, it's great. It is very surreal.
And then just one completely irrelevant question here. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
You heard it here first. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
I'm good. Thanks for talking to me.
Absolutely. I'm Phil with the Comics Pals. Joining me was Rob. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
And like always, you can find us on social media, like and share and subscribe to the videos. And until next time, take care.